The only thing here that is not glass is the totally glass. This is the only thing that is not glass. But at least it was used in making glass. So all these things here, they are from rich people in those days. Okay.
The museum itself is a sprawling cultural treasure trove with collections ranging from archaeology and ethnography to crafts, history.
Я говорю по-русски. Да. Да, я говорю по-русски.
The moment you step into the Glass Pavilion, everything changes. The lighting is soft, controlled, almost theatrical, and everywhere you look, there's transparency.
All these things that I happen to see here at this museum, it is enough to blow our minds. Oh guys, look, tennis court down there. I don't know how to play tennis. Very beautiful standard courts down there. Hey. Hi. How do I get to see there is a viewing something?
No, it's closed.
It's closed, but is this one right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the highest place, but the exhibition is going to be open in about 2 months only.
Okay. So now you guys are working on it?
Yeah.
All right. Building something new here. What is going on? The bird mosaic, Bet Guvrin. Nuchushtan. Shalom.
Imagine a journey through time. This is the story of Nuchushtan. Now close your eyes for a moment and picture a land of endless sun, blazing heat, and untamed desert wind. This is the southern Negev, where the earth holds age-old secrets in its rocky veins. Secrets that would one day spark one of humanity's greatest discoveries, metallurgy, the transformation of raw stone into glowing molten metal. Now imagine stepping inside a place in Tel Aviv where all of this ancient history comes alive. The Nuchushtan Pavilion at the Eretz Israel Museum, a true time machine beneath a modern sky.
A land whose stones are iron and out of whose hills you can dig copper. Deuteronomy 8 verse 9. The Nuchushtan Pavilion tells the story of the revolutionary discovery that copper ore can be converted into almost pure metallic copper. Since the dawn of history, the Timna Valley has functioned as a significant copper industry center. For over 6,000 years, diverse groups, including desert-dwelling tribes, Egyptian delegations, semi-nomadic communities, Roman soldiers, the Nabateans, the Umayyads, and even the state of Israel have exploited the copper deposits within this region.
As you enter the Nuchushtan Pavilion, your eyes are immediately drawn to the reconstructions of ancient copper mines and furnaces. These are not just replicas, they are bridges to the past. Here, the story of copper's journey from hidden ore to shimmering tool was unearthed through decades of archaeological work. You walk through a reconstructed mine, a narrow dark passageway that countless ancient workers once carved out with flint blades, stone hammers, and early copper chisels. Each tool bears the marks of hands long gone, and each groove in the rock whispers tales of daring, hard labor deep beneath the desert soil. The magic of the furnace deeper inside, you encounter towering furnaces, remnants of past millennia resurrected in stone and clay. There are several, each representing a different era.
6,000 years of copper metallurgy in the Araba,
a bowl furnace from the Chalcolithic age when humans first began experimenting with heat and fire, a domed furnace from the late Bronze Age, a structure that once roared with flames powerful enough to melt rock, a shaft furnace from the Iron Age, evidence of how much this craft evolved over time. Standing before them, you can almost feel the shimmer of ancient flames and hear the rhythmic clang of metal, the triumphant sound of copper being born. Goods from the desert, more than tools, but the pavilion's story is not just about tools and furnaces, it's also about people.
The Egyptian mining sanctuary.
You'll see beautifully decorated pottery, known as Kuraya painted ware, whose colors survived thousands of years in the dry desert air. These vessels aren't just objects, they are messages from the past, showing us that life around these mines was rich with culture, trade, and community. There's even evidence from a shrine to the goddess Hathur, the patron of miners, sacred and spiritual, hidden until archaeologists unearthed its remnants. This temple, built over 1,000 years before the time of the biblical kings, tells of belief and ritual woven deeply into the lives of ancient workers. The pavilion's name Nuchushtan comes from the Hebrew word for bronze or copper. It represents our oldest connection to metalworking in the region, and it is here that visitors can trace a direct line from prehistoric innovation to the dazzling advances of later civilizations. Walking through the halls is like walking alongside ancient miners and metallurgists. You witness firsthand how clever minds transformed natural forces into tools that changed everyday life, tools that shaped agriculture, art, weapons, and even spiritual objects. Of course, the Nuchushtan Pavilion is just one chapter in the vast narrative of the Eretz Israel Museum. The museum itself is a sprawling cultural treasure trove with collections ranging from archaeology and ethnography to crafts, history, and even a great planetarium.
Roman lead coffin from a painted tomb at Migdal Ashkelon, mid-3rd century CE. Wow, so this was a coffin.
The museum grounds are an urban oasis where gardens and ancient ruins blend with galleries and outdoor exhibits. You could spend an entire day here, wandering through ancient sites, stepping into world history, and feeling the pulse of human creativity across thousands of years. So, if you ever find yourself exploring the heart of Tel Aviv, whether with family, friends, or even on your own, make time for the Nuchushtan Pavilion at Eretz Israel Museum. There, among furnaces and pottery, stories and stone, you'll discover something unexpectedly alive, the ingenuity of people long gone, whose fires once blazed under the desert sun, forging not just copper, but civilization itself.
Blacksmith's workshop, Mamluk period, 14th century CE. Found near Elat, the workshop was removed to the museum in 1971. Dr. Walter Moses, 1893 to 1955, founder of the museum, Haaretz.
I'm taking you inside one of the most mesmerizing spaces in this museum, the Glass Pavilion. When people think about ancient history, they usually imagine stone, clay, maybe metal, but glass, it feels modern. It feels fragile, decorative. It feels contemporary. And yet, the story of glass is ancient. It is powerful and honestly a little magical.
I wish I can have a stone like this. Beautiful.
The moment you step into the Glass Pavilion, everything changes. The lighting is soft, controlled, almost theatrical, and everywhere you look, there's transparency. Delicate vessels, tiny perfume bottles, ancient bowls, fragments that survived thousands of years. And here's what hits you first. How did something so fragile survive for so long?
Pre-blown glass, the Bronze Age, Hellenistic period.
These pieces have endured empires, wars, weather, and time itself. Let's go back thousands of years. Glassmaking in this region dates back to ancient times, especially during the Roman and Byzantine periods, and the land of Israel was actually one of the world's major glass production centers. Yes, right here. Archaeologists discovered that huge quantities of raw glass were produced along the Mediterranean coast. Massive furnaces melted sand at extremely high temperatures, creating enormous chunks of glass that were then shipped across the Roman Empire. Think about that. Tel Aviv today exports tech and innovation, but 1,500 years ago, this land exported glass to the world. As you walk deeper into the pavilion, you'll see early glass vessels. Some are cloudy and thick, the earliest examples. Others are thin, elegant, almost impossibly refined. And that's when you realize something incredible. Ancient glass blowers were artists and engineers at the same time. The invention of glass blowing in the 1st century BCE completely changed everything. Suddenly, instead of slowly shaping glass over molds, artisans could gather molten glass on the end of a blowpipe and inflate it, like a glowing bubble of honey. Imagine standing in front of a furnace, heat blasting your face, holding a pipe with molten glass at the tip and carefully breathing into it. Too much air, it bursts. Too little, it collapses. It required skill, control, precision, and the results are right here in front of you. One of the most fascinating sections in the pavilion shows everyday objects made of glass. Tiny cosmetic bottles, oil lamps, drinking cups. These weren't royal treasures locked away in palaces. They were daily life, which means glass wasn't just luxury, it became accessible. And that accessibility tells you something about trade, economy, and technological advancements in the region.
Before you and I were born,
glass was practical, functional, beautiful. It transformed daily routines. Imagine being someone in Roman-era Caesarea or Jaffa, holding a transparent cup for the first time in human history.
I just want to pause and say that all these things that I happen to see here at this museum, it is enough to blow our minds when we think of how man was able to create and manufacture these things without using the tools we have today to make things easier for us, but with their bare hands, with whatever tools they used in creating this work. This is not art, this is life. This was their life. This was what they basically used every day. Art are things that we don't necessarily have to use them, just create them for beautification. But these weren't created for beautification, these were created to be used at home in their daily lives. Today, we can create things more sophisticated, and this with the help of machines, with the help of things we have built and invented that will help us to, do things like this. Yeah, Glass Pavilion.
And while I was still on my exploration, this 75 years old Russian attendant came and acted as my Glass Pavilion guide.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they're all written here in English. This is the Islamic period from 9th to 11th centuries, guys. Like I said, these were used in everyday lives, no matter how small they are. This is for praying. This and this. Okay. All right. Let's see.
For thousands of years, containers were opaque, clay, stone, metal. Now suddenly you could see through the material. That must have felt almost supernatural. And then there is the color, blues, greens, iridescent. purple shimmering on the surface of ancient fragments. That rainbow effect, it wasn't intentional decoration. It's the result of chemical reactions over centuries underground. Time itself painted these pieces. What you're seeing isn't just craftsmanship, it's collaboration between human hands and nature. One of the most powerful feelings inside a glass pavilion is contrast. Outside, Tel Aviv is loud, fast, modern. Inside, everything slows down. You start paying attention to details, the curve of a rim, the thickness of a handle, tiny air bubbles trapped inside ancient glass. Those bubbles are like fingerprints of the maker, proof that this object was once molten, fluid, alive, and now it sits behind glass, preserved, studied, admired. There's something poetic about that. Glass displayed inside glass, transparency protecting transparency. The pavilion also tells the story of large-scale glass production in ancient Israel. Archaeological discoveries along the coast revealed massive furnaces capable of producing tons of raw glass at once. This wasn't small-scale craft, this was industry. The raw glass would be broken into chunks and transported to workshops around the Mediterranean. So when you look at a Roman glass vessel in Italy or France, there is a real possibility its material originated right here. That connection makes this pavilion feel global. It's not just local history, it's international impact.
From glass of the Persian period. Yeah. Pre-blown glass, late Bronze Age Hellenistic period. So apparently, their glasses. Okay.
Roma.
After a wall painting, Rome, 1st century CE. Wow. These glasses, they don't actually look like glasses, they look like ceramics. Wow. If this is 5th century, before, after a painted Greek vase, 5th century BCE.
As I stood there looking at these ancient pieces, I kept thinking about how glass represents something deeper: transparency, fragility, transformation. Sand, ordinary sand, heated beyond imagination, becomes something clear and luminous. There is a metaphor in that: pressure and heat creating beauty. And then there is the modern side. The pavilion doesn't just stop in antiquity, it also connects ancient techniques to contemporary glass art, because glass never stopped evolving. From Roman vessels to medieval stained glass to modern architecture and art installations, the journey continues. But it started here, with furnaces near the sea, with artisans who dared to experiment with fire. By the time you leave the glass pavilion at the Eretz Israel Museum, you don't just see glass the same way anymore. You notice it everywhere: windows, screens, bottles, light fixtures. And you remember that this transparent material has a 2,000-year-old story in this land. It survived empires, it traveled continents, it carried perfumes, oils, wine, medicine. It connected cultures.
How is it glass? Русить? Русить? Кен, я говорю по-русски. Да.
Что ты мне раньше не сказал? Вау. Давай, буду рассказывать.
Хорошо.
Понимаешь?
Да, я говорю по-русски.
Они берут глину,
Окей.
глина, делают формочку,
Окей.
делают, как пластилин, потом это стекло,
Окей.
это глаз,
Окей.
они вот так наматывают, горячий глаз,
Горячий, да?
потом делают ровненько,
Окей.
гладят, потом красят,
Да.
потом кладут воду,
Окей.
глина,
Окей.
растворяется, намес, растворяется, и ты получаешь беглазе. Поэтому кажется, что это керамика.
Понятно, да.
This 75 years old Russian woman, even though small in stature, but her eyes sharp, observant, alive with stories that feel older than the artifacts themselves. And when she starts explaining the antiquities, time shifts. She doesn't introduce herself with titles, no formal speech, no rehearsed museum guide rhythm. Instead, she looks at a 2,000-year-old glass vessel and says softly in a thick Russian accent, "You see, this is not just glass, this is survival." And suddenly, we're not just tourists anymore, we're witnesses. She tells me about the origins of glassmaking in this land, how along the eastern Mediterranean coast, artisans discovered the sand, fire, and patience could create something almost magical. She explains how ancient craftsmen near this very coastline perfected glass-blowing techniques during the Roman period. Her hands move as she talks, slow, careful gestures, mimicking the turning of a blowpipe, the shaping of molten glass. Imagine, she says, a man standing in front of fire so hot it could burn his face, and yet he must breathe gently, carefully, to create something this delicate. She pauses. Power controlled by breath. The pavilion itself feels alive as she speaks. Sunlight dances across ancient bowls, flasks, and amphorae. Some are tinted blue, others green, some almost clear like frozen water from another era. She walks me to a small perfume bottle, tiny, fragile. This, she says, leaning closer, would have held scent from Arabia, maybe myrrh, maybe frankincense. It traveled by caravan, from desert to port to ship. Her finger traces an invisible trade route across the air, and now she smiles faintly. It traveled to you. There is something powerful about her presence. She is not simply explaining objects, she is defending them, protecting them from being misunderstood. She tells me that ancient glass was once more valuable than pottery, that in certain eras, clear glass was a symbol of wealth. She explains how techniques evolved from core forming to free blowing and how the invention of glass blowing in the 1st century BCE changed everything. Before that, she says, glass was slow, expensive, rare. Then she lifts her hands dramatically. But once man learned to blow air into fire, glass became democratic. Her eyes sparkle when she says that word, democratic.
Ты видишь?
Да, я...
Нет реставрации. Это не прошло реставрацию.
Нет?
Нет. Без реставрации. Это
Как они нашли?
как
Да.
нашли. Только помыли от пыли, от грязи и все. Нет реставрации. Посмотри, сколько лет. 2000 лет.
Alright guys, I just have to explain what she said. Now the colors you're seeing on this, they are original. That's what she's telling me, that the only thing they did was just to wash the dirt off, but these are original colors from the 1st century. And these little things you guys are seeing is for putting aromatic oil from flowers, because then there was no perfume. So they put in oil here and then they use it, as perfume. Wow. And these are the original colors. They were not remade, they were not repainted. It is as they were.
As I kept following her for more explanation, unexpectedly she makes it personal. She tells me she came to Israel decades ago from Russia, that she studied history, that for her, artifacts are not dead things in display cases, they are conversations between civilizations. When I look at this Roman cup, she says, pointing to a slightly chipped vessel, I do not see Rome conquering Judea, I see a family drinking wine. Silence falls upon me. It's not the kind of silence that comes from boredom, it's the kind that comes from realization. She moves to a different section of the pavilion, pieces recovered from excavations, fragments of glass fused by time, some wrapped by ancient fires. This, she says softly, is what happens when cities burn. She explains how layers of destruction tell stories, invasions, revolts, accidents. Glass, unlike stone, melts under extreme heat, and when it cools, it freezes history in distorted shapes. She gestures toward a twisted shard. This piece tells us there was fire, intense fire, maybe war, maybe tragedy. Then she looks at me, but also rebuilding. Her voice grows stronger as she speaks about innovation in the land of Israel during the Byzantine period. She describes workshops that once operated not far from where we stand. She talks about Jewish, Christian, and pagan communities all using glass. Lamps for synagogues, churches, homes, Light, she says firmly, is universal.
Это не поняла.
Я просто, когда я говорю, я думал, это чемодан, но тогда как была чемодан?
А почему это город, это дома, это как будто дома?
Да,
правильно?
да, внутри.
А почему чемодан дома? Что они хотят сказать?
Не знаю, а что.
Ты можешь с собой, где ты живешь, ты можешь с собой носить свой город.
Понятно.
Ты понял? Какой для тебя дорогой? Вот сейчас ты здесь, это не твое место. Например, Киев или, может быть, где-то в другом месте твое дорогое место, да, которое у тебя на сердце, где твоя мама, твой папа, например, да? Ты можешь взять этот чемодан и носить с собой все время. И ты не расстаешься. Ты понял?
Да.
Вот для чего они это сделали.
All right, so guys, you see, this is a glass, case, a glass suitcase, and if you see what is inside, it's like, and there are cities, there are houses in this glass case. So she's explaining to me that what this means is that what does it symbolize? That it means that the creator of this, meant you can carry your home in your suitcase. So where your heart is, there your home is. So let's say, for example, I'm from Nigeria, I can not literally take Nigeria along with me to Israel, but since Nigeria is in my heart, that symbolizes that I'm carrying Nigeria as a suitcase to wherever I am going. This is interesting.
She further explains how glass oil lamps illuminated ancient prayers, how the flicker of flame through colored glass would have cast blue and green shadows on stone walls. Think about it, she says. You are praying, and light comes like water around you.
In Eretz Valley. So this was a lamp. They will put oil in it and put something and put the fire, and it's gonna act like a lamp. Byzantine Greek.
Такая лампа. Вот как такая, только это масляная лампа.
Okay.
Тысячи лет ей. Тысячи, скажи, 1000 лет.
10th century CE. So guys, this was their electricity.
Очень интересно. Вот это очень красивое. Самое красивое мне нравится вот это. Подойди с этой стороны. Посмотри, какая она красивая.
Да.
Очень красивая вот эта
This was like their electricity.
Лампа. Это лампы.
Я помню, в Африке у нас была не такой, но лампа такой, который...
Да. Зажигали.
Да.
У меня дома тоже такая.
At one point, I asked if people back then would knew their glass would end up in a museum. She laughs, a deep, warm laugh. No, she says, they thought it would break tomorrow. And that sentence stayed with me because she was right. Most of these objects were never meant to survive centuries. They were everyday items, cups, bottles, windows, jewelry. Yet here they are, outlasting empires. She walks me to a reconstructed ancient furnace display. She explains the chemistry in simple but vivid terms. Silica, sand, soda, ash, lime. How the Levantine coast had the perfect sand for high-quality glass. This region, she says proudly, was world famous. And suddenly you realize that this land was not only about wars and prophets, it was also about industry, craftsmanship, trade, and science. She talks about how raw glass chunks were exported across the Roman Empire, how Israel's coast was once a global supplier. Before oil, she says with a playful smile, there was sand.
Glass furnace. Вот это именно 700 лет?
Да.
Вау.
Здесь даже написано, по-моему, здесь видно. Вот, 13 век, видишь?
Да.
13 век, это 700 лет.
So this is from the 13th century, guys. I'm even scared of touching it. Wow.
Это печка. Не похоже на печку совсем, правда?
Но похоже.
Как будто пещера. Это как будто пещера. А это печка. Вот пользовались вот для того, чтобы делать...
So this was used for blowing glass.
Да. Для блау это сделано.
Nice.
А это сегодняшнее, это модернское, это сегодняшнее. Тоже глаз.
Okay.
Ну, видно, что глаз немножко. Это сегодняшнее.
Yeah, this one is modern.
Я очень люблю, но нету рисунок, нету краски, нету уже, все, краска ушла. Это чтобы пить, видишь, вот это, исламика,
Okay,
700 лет,
yeah.
700 лет это исламика.
13th century, these were drinking glasses.
Да, это все, чтобы пить.
As the tour continues, she glows down. Her voice softens again. She stands in front of a display of the delicate Roman glass balls, their edges slightly iridescent from centuries underground. Do you see this rainbow effect? She asked. She explains how chemical reactions in the soil create that shimmering surface over time. It is decay, she says, but it is beautiful decay. And that line feels poetic, even though she speaks plainly. Beautiful decay. She shares stories of archaeological digs, how pieces are found in shards and painstakingly reconstructed. She describes conservators like surgeons, matching fragments millimeter by millimeter. Sometimes, she says, you hold a piece in your hand, and you are the first person to touch it in 1,500 years. You can hear the awe in her voice, not pride, awe.
Вот последнее, хочу сказать тебе последнее. Мне нравится вот этот графин. Он похож на мужчину, гордого, вот такой. Есть такие? Вот такие мужчины, вот есть вот такие. Это как будто, это я так говорю. Они так не говорят, это я так говорю. А он, видишь, он использует этот графин, чтобы пить. Это из какого материала сделано? Как потом? Это стекло, а вот это черное, какой материал?
Какой?
На что похоже? На что похоже вот это черное это? Из какой материал? Из чего сделано? Из чего сделали?
Клей?
Это сделано тоже стекло.
Стекло?
Вот это черное,
да.
Черный цвет, знаешь, что такое? Вот черный цвет.
Да, черный цвет,
вот
да.
Это черное, тоже стекло.
Вот, все стекло.
Все стекло. Все стекло, как будто не так. Это похоже.
Да, вот, я хотел говорить iron.
Это стекло. Я тоже думала. Я думала, что это металл. Вот это. Вот это черное, вот это черное. Я думала, что это металл черный. Нет, это стекло.
As we near the end of the exploration, she tells me, remember, as she says slowly, glass is fragile. She taps lightly on the protective barrier, but civilization is also fragile. She explains how knowledge, technology, and culture can flourish and then disappear, how workshops vanish, skills are lost, techniques forgotten. For hundreds of years, she tells me, some glass-making secrets were lost, and then rediscovered, just like pieces of ourselves. The sun is now lower outside, casting golden light across the pavilion floor. The artifacts glow warmly. The entire space feels suspended between past and present.
Везде есть кресты. Если ты хорошо посмотришь, везде вот крест. На всех вот этих квадратиках.
Вот все это стекло?
Металлическое, это все стекло. Но стекло не одно стекло, вот эти вот отдельные кубики. Вот эти. Они
Alright,
как
guys,
сказать, как
what
мозаика.
is, да, как мозаика.
Но это не керамика, это стекло. Это похоже на керамику тоже.
Я думаю, это керамика.
Нет, это стекло.
So these are all glasses. All these, small squares you see in here, they are not ceramics. What she's explaining to me is that they are glasses.
Это украшение на улице католической церкви.
It was found in a Catholic church in Caesarea, да?
700 лет в Кесарии.
Caesarea, okay.
700 лет этому.
Wow, that was
Все
in the
нашли,
13th century.
Вот эти только не хватает. Не нашли.
Wow.
А так все в основном ценное.
Interesting.
She takes one last look at the display before addressing me. These objects survived because someone buried them or forgot them.
And guys, she's 75 years old.
The real reason she stands here at 75 years old, explaining antiquities with such fire, she is not just sharing information, she is passing a torch.
Исламика. Это тоже исламика. Вот это все. Посмотри, человека сделали из стекла. Это тоже исламика.
А это
Это птица. Это какая-то стекло, все стекло. Все стекло, все глаз. Все глаз. Это тоже.
Wow, guys.
И дальше это
Interesting.
Посмотри, это не похоже на глаз тоже.
Не похоже, вот это похоже на камень.
Да, на камень, точно, как камень. Это тоже глаз. А вот мне нравится этот человек. Вот смотри, это очень тяжелая работа. Это надувка,
Да.
блан.
Wow, guys, this is interesting. Everything, in fact, everything in this pavilion, even if it looks like...
Поэтому все глаз.
The only thing here that is not glass is вот это не glass. This is the only thing that is not glass.
Это глина, глина.
But at least it was used in making glass.
А то и печку можно было сделать.
As our exploration ends, I thank her quietly. And before leaving, she turns back once more. You think glass is fragile? She says gently. But it survived 2,000 years. She smiles. Maybe we are stronger than we think.
Now she's telling me that it's a woman. It's a woman that did this. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Very beautiful.
Еще, если у тебя немножко время, походи, посмотри, что мы с тобой не видели. Вот смотри, еще я забыла про это. Почему это ничего не разбитое, все целое?
Почему?
Почему? Под землей же это все может...
Да, но
потому что они нашли в гробах.
Да?
Это все нашли в гробах богатых людей. Ты знаешь по истории, что хоронили людей, клали мертвого, и рядом с ним клали его вещи, как будто они верили, что они на том свете будут пользоваться. Как у фараона.
Фараон, да.
Вот эти вещи все нашли в гроб. Знаешь, что такое гроб?
Да, я знаю.
В гробах нашли. А гробы, это сейчас делают из дерева. Гробы делали вот такие вот.
She asked me a question. Why do I think the colors here are still intact in most of these, artifacts we've seen here? I told her, how could I know? I don't know why the colors are still intact. She said, yeah, think. Especially that it is from this late Bronze Age, 1st century, 10th century, the Byzantine period, yet all the colors as we've seen are still intact. Why? And I told her, I don't know. I can't even think right now. She told me because most of the things she has shown me here were discovered in tombs, like in coffins like this. So this was a coffin. Those rich people, they also had rich people in their time. So those rich people, they saved most of their things, rich, expensive things, in things like this. So she told me that because most of them, when they were excavated, these artifacts you're seeing here, glass with their colors intact, they were found under the earth in stuff like this. So all these things here, they are from rich people in those days, because those things there look very, very expensive. So.
И кто нам дал эту коллекцию? Сейчас я тебе скажу. Идем, выходим. Да, иначе я ничего не рассказала. Идем, смотри. Вот этот человек дал нам эту коллекцию.
Да?
Читай, здесь там написано.
Dr. Walter Moses. Yeah. So she's explaining that this was the person that gave these collections of these olden things here. It is even written founder of the museum Haaretz. So,
он нам подарил эту коллекцию. Он умер в 55-м году.
Да.
В 55-м. До своей смерти, за несколько лет, он нам отдал эту коллекцию. Он из Австрии, он не был израильтянином.
Он из Австрии?
Из Австрии.
Wow.
Он жил в Австрии и собирал эту коллекцию, а потом привез ее в Израиль и подарил нам.
Okay.
Да,
so he's from Austria and he's Jewish.
Walter.
Yeah, Walter Moses. He's Austrian, Jewish. Before he died, he was the one that gifted the state of Israel the collections, most of the collections which are saw here.
Благодаря этому построили это здание, павильон, да? Начался музей. Первый павильон – это глаз. А потом все остальные построили, керамика, монеты. Ты был там?
Да, я был везде.
Вот,
это была
молодец,
последняя.
умничка. Да. Там это, 10 павильонов сейчас. А это первый павильон. Благодаря вот этой его коллекции.
So because of this man here, Dr. Walter Moses, God bless his soul, for gifting the things we've seen here, this pavilion was the first pavilion to be built.
А сейчас 10 павильонов.
And now there are 10 pavilions of, antiquities here in this complex. But this was the first, and it was built because of his donation of the gift of the glass, wares we've seen inside. Thank you very much, Dr. Walter Moses.
Да.
Now I know you.
Да, светлая ему память. Да. Молодец.
Спасибо большое.
As I step outside the pavilion, I realized something. Inside that glass pavilion, time did not just stand still. It spoke through a 75-year-old Russian woman, through sand and fire, through breath, and through fragile vessels that refuse to disappear. That's the magic of the glass pavilion. It doesn't just display antiquities, it reveals endurance, and sometimes all it takes to understand 2,000 years of history is one steady voice, shaped by experience, echoing through glass.
Okay.
Откуда бабочка выходит?
Oh, okay.
Сначала вот такой, как червяк.
Caterpillar. caterpillar, да?
Вот такой, как червяк. А потом из него выходит бабочка. Ты понял?
Да.
Вот он взял кокон. Посмотри, какой красивый. Вокруг, походи, посмотри. Вокруг. Очень красивый, очень. Смотри, вот она бабочка. Вот эти все формы настоящие, как в природе. Смотри, вот она бабочка у него. Он специально ее сделал, чтобы мы поняли, что это кокон.
Okay.
Это
Cocoon. Yeah.
Cocoon. Мы по-русски говорим кокон. Cocoon.
Alright, so this
Сейчас
is the
ты
butterfly's
прочитаешь.
cocoon, like I'm
Подожди,
hearing.
ты сейчас прочитаешь, что здесь написано. Потом прочитаешь.
I was thinking, what is coconut? And now with the image, it's okay. This is a cocoon.
На английском написано. Читай.
Metamorphosis, yeah. This work was inspired by the silver pupa of a butterfly living in the Amazon rainforest. Its coating, which resembles a mirror, offers camouflage and protection for the vulnerable stage of transformation. Now I get it.
Это японская работа. Японский парень нам сделал.
Nice. From Japan.
Да. Как тебя зовут?
Washington?
Как тебя зовут?
Washington.
Вот прям так это зовут?
Да, меня
Это
зовут.
как город Вашингтон. Ладно,
зовут.
очень приятно. Меня Тома зовут. Тома.
Тома. Очень приятно, Тома.
Да, я очень рада, что ты знаешь русских. Молодец.
Спасибо большое.
Молодец.
И мне
А ты
очень
как?
приятно, что вы мне все объяснили.
С удовольствием я это
Спасибо.
делаю. Если язык есть, я это делаю и на иврите, и на русском.
Interesting. Toma, thank you very much for all the explanation. I appreciate it.